Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a dupe video. I'm going to be showing you guys a bunch of really awesome dupes that you probably haven't heard of before. I do feel like these are somewhat unique and honestly kind of shocking. Like there's a couple products here that I actually can't believe, number one, how similar they are, and number two, how similar they are. Yeah, it's just wild to me. Let's just say I have a dupe for NARS, Dior, Hourglass, Armani, and more. And of course, we're not wearing makeup today, which means one thing. I'm going to be putting the makeup on my face. So we're going to have a drugstore side, a high-end side, and you guys are going to be able to see these dupes in action. And I will also do a check-in at the end of the day. I would love if you guys could give me your thoughts on any and all of the products that I'm sharing today, whether it's the drugstore stuff or the high-end stuff. If you tried it, what are your thoughts? If you guys want to see more dupe videos, they're some of my favorite videos to film. Hit the thumbs up button. And if you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button down below to join the fam to see more videos like this. And without further ado, let's zoom on in and let's get started with the dupes. So let's start off first with a dupe that was actually brought to you by Mama Paige, which is my mom. In case you didn't know, my mom often makes appearances on my channel, on my Instagram, and she often makes really amazing makeup recommendations. I swear my mom knows just as much about makeup as I do. She's a little like makeup connoisseur, beauty guru in her own right. And she's actually the one who told me that this product here from Milani, the Bright Side Illuminating Primer, Vitamin C and Pro Vitamin B5 primer, gives her pretty much the exact same effect as the Ole Henriksen Banana Bright Face Primer. The Ole Henriksen Banana Bright Face Primer was actually one of my favorite primers for a really long time. I really love this because it was a very nice and just like lightweight hydrating primer, but it also gave a very subtle kind of brightening effect to the skin as well as a little bit of a glow. And I just really loved it underneath my foundation. And this guy gives the exact same effect. They even both have vitamin C in them as well. So the right side of my face is going to be the high-end side and the left side of my face is going to be the drugstore side. So let's start off first with the Ole Henriksen Banana Bright Face Primer. I'm going to pump out one full pump. So you can see it has kind of like a bit of a yellowy undertone, and it also has a really nice kind of orange scent to it. By the way, if you are looking for a product that gives you a glow that's not overly intense and that works well with textured skin, this is actually a really beautiful product because it's not over the top at all. So that's what that looks like on the skin. I mean, it is a primer. You're not really going to see it very much, but you can see that it does give my skin this really pretty glow. Okay, so now let's go in with the Milani Bright Side Illuminating Primer. So right off the bat, you can see it's pretty much the exact same color. It has a really light yellowy tint, and it also has the exact same texture, and it even smells very similar. It also has a little bit of an orangey scent. I've tried these both obviously separately, but not like one after the other. And when you really try it one after the other, it's just wild how similar they feel and how similar they look. So this is a Mama Paige approved dupe, and it is also a Jamie Paige approved dupe. Now let's talk foundation. So this foundation over here from L'Oreal is the Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation. The very first time that I tried this, immediately I was reminded of the It Cosmetics CC cream. So there's so many similarities between these two foundations. They both have a very lightweight look and feel to the skin, but even though they look super natural, they still have a lot of coverage. This gives you like almost flawless full coverage, and this also gives you almost like flawless full coverage. Both these are also amazing for dry skin because they both have this really nice kind of light glow to them. This is considered a serum foundation, so it does kind of have that nice just skincare like glow within it. And that's also a huge reason why I've loved the It Cosmetics CC cream for such a long time, is because it really just makes my skin look like skin. It has this beautiful glow to it, but it doesn't look too heavy or overdone or too makeup-y. Okay, let's start off first with the It Cosmetics CC side. So I'm going to take the shade Light, and I'm actually going to mix a little bit of medium because I am a little bit on the tanner side right now. I'm going to use a sponge. This one is from e.l.f. and just start to, is this the right side? Yes. Start to apply it on the skin. Now the It Cosmetics CC cream was one of my ultimate favorite foundations for years. I'm sure if you guys have been around on my channel for a while, you'll remember the many times that I said how much I loved the It Cosmetics CC cream because it looks like this. It covered up all of the redness in like 2 seconds, very little product, and it just has the most beautiful natural glow. and it still looks like skin even though it has that really, really nice coverage. It also lasts really well too. I find I can go like a solid 12 hours wearing this and it still looks just as good as when I first applied it. Keep in mind I do have dry skin. If you do have more of an oilier skin type, this foundation may be a little bit too dewy for you, but for me it's like perfect. Look how nice that looks. Now let's go in with the L'Oreal Age Perfect. I'm gonna be using the shade 40 Natural Buff, which should match me pretty perfectly right now. I'm gonna take just a little bit on the back of my hand. There's definitely a difference in the consistency between the two. The It Cosmetics CC Cream is a thicker consistency. The L'Oreal Age Perfect, it has kind of more of like a watery serum-like texture to it. So that is one big difference between the two. So here's what the It Cosmetics side looks like. Here's what the L'Oreal side looks like. To me, just looking in the mirror, I cannot tell a difference between the two sides. Like I said, I really find that the only big difference is the texture, and the L'Oreal side maybe just a touch, like a touch dewier. But besides that, they give like the exact same effect to the skin. And also the exact same like coverage impact as well. Let me zoom you guys in extra close so you could really see what's going on here. So here's L'Oreal. Here's It Cosmetics. So now let's move on to concealer. I have the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer over here. Spoken about this so much on my channel. It's definitely one of my personal favorite concealers. I really just love kind of everything about this, especially when I do want more of a full coverage finish. This gives me full coverage, but it doesn't look heavy ever. Now, I've said this dupe multiple times on my channel already, but I've never actually shown it to you like side by side, so I'm really excited to do that today. But I've mentioned plenty of times that I find that the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer Satin Finish is a very, very, very similar product to the Dior concealer because it kind of does the exact same thing. It's full coverage, but it still has a hydrating feel, and it also doesn't like settle into your fine lines. And I find that it gives a really flawless look to the under eyes. And there's just really not a lot of full coverage concealers that give me this exact effect. Most of the time, full coverage concealers just look really heavy and cakey and concealery underneath the eyes, when I don't like that at all. I definitely like more of a natural finish, but sometimes I still want that high coverage, but without compromising on that natural finish. And these two guys give me that exact effect. The only thing that's a little bit annoying in this comparison is that the color is just not the same. The Dior one is in 1N, and then the e.l.f. one is in light sand. Starting off first with the high-end side, we have the Dior concealer. It does have a doe foot applicator, and I always find it applies way too much, so I always scrape off the excess because you just don't need a lot with this stuff. And I'm just going to put a little bit right in the crease of my eye on the outer corner, and kind of like right here and on the inner corner too. This guy also has a doe foot applicator. I actually do prefer this doe foot applicator to the Dior one because when you take the wand out of the packaging, it kind of like wipes off all the concealer on the sides and it just leaves a little bit on the tip. It's still a little bit too much in my opinion, but it's a lot better than the Dior one because you can see it's just kind of everywhere on the wand and it doesn't do any of that wiping effect, which I just find makes it a little bit of a cleaner process. I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy. So I literally wipe off most of the concealer that's on here exactly as I do with the Dior one. I'm gonna put a little bit there, there, and there. I put way too much on the inner corner of my eye, but that's okay. The sponge will soak up the excess, and let's just blend it out. Again, unfortunately, the color is just not the same, but let's try and look past that. Okay, so here is a close-up of the under eyes. We have the e.l.f. and the Dior. Do you guys notice a huge difference? I noticed no difference. So the base is now done. Let's move on to bronzer. So over here, I have one of my favorite bronzers. This is the Radiant Bronze Light Bronzer from Hourglass. It's beautiful because this bronzer has a really subtle glow to it, so it adds a really nice sheen to the skin. The texture of this powder is also really fine and lightweight. It's very flattering on the skin. And this is so similar to this Wet n Wild bronzer. This is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer in the shade Sunset Striptease. It's gonna be a little bit hard to see because these are sheer bronzers, but this is the Hourglass one, and then this is the Wet n Wild one. And they both have this really, really subtle kind of golden sheen to them. You see how they both glow? Pretty much in the exact same way. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, these two powders definitely have two very different textures. The Hourglass powder does feel much finer. It feels a little bit softer when you touch it, but the Wet n Wild powder does also have a really nice buttery finish, but it's not at the same level of like fineness as the Hourglass bronzer. So let's start out first with the Hourglass side. I'm going to use this Sigma tapered face brush. This is the F25, and I'm just going to dip into the Hourglass powder. I'm going to bronze my cheekbones, my temples, and my jawline. I really love the tone of this too. For my skin tone, I find it works really well. It's definitely a very like golden, warm bronzer. And like I said, it gives this really, really pretty, very subtle glow. So now let's go in with the Wet n Wild one. On the same brush, I'm just going to flip it over to the other side, pick up a little bit of the bronzer. Another difference that I do notice between these two powders is the pigmentation. You do have to build up the Wet n Wild side just a little bit more in order to get the same amount of like warmth that the Hourglass side gives you pretty much immediately. But once you do build it up, you do have a really nice amount of color, and that glow is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. And obviously there is a ginormous price difference between the two. So now let's talk blush. This one is the one that really surprised me the most. Like when I swatched them side by side, I really couldn't believe how similar the two of them actually were. So for the high-end product, this is the NARS Air Matte Blush in the shade Scandalous. It looks really intense and really deep in the pot, but it actually applies in a much sheerer way. This is a cream blush, but it's very different than a typical cream blush. It does have obviously more of a matte finish. It is called the Air Matte Blush, and it diffuses to be like quite a sheer color on the cheek. So it looks crazy, but it's actually not. This Burt's Bees Color Nurture Cream Blush in the shade 1280 Berry Whip. You guys. Now, when you compare the colors side by side, you may think that there's a bit of like a tonal difference between the two. Scandalous definitely looks like it has more of like a, I don't know, almost like a redder undertone, whereas Berry Whip has more of like a pinker undertone, but when it's actually blended out on the skin, you cannot tell a difference between the two. I'm going to show you guys just swatch on my hand side by side. So this is NARS Scandalous. This is Burt's Bees Berry Whip. It honestly speaks for itself. Like, need I say more? There's a very, very, very subtle finish difference between the two. Berry Whip, the Burt's Bees guy, does have like the most subtle golden sheen to it. So when you flip your hand back and forth, you can kind of see just a little bit of that gold fleck, whereas the NARS one doesn't have any type of sheen. It's like just a matte solid color. I actually thought that the Burt's Bees one would be a little bit more on the creamy side, but I was surprised to see that it did have that same powdery matte finish, which I find is hard to find in a cream blush formula. Most of my cream blushes that I have are very emollient and wet, and they also come in very similar packaging too, which I thought was kind of funny. Both a pain in the ass to apply if you have long nails, because my nails just do not fit in here. So when I want to pick it up with my finger, my nail just like indents it. So instead I kind of like scoop out a little bit of product, put it on the back of my hand, take a brush and apply it that way. Or I'll just take a brush and just put it directly into the pot itself, but still a pain in the ass to apply. So I'm going to take this brush over here. This is the Katie Jane Hughes Spectrum 04 brush. And I'm going to dip in directly to the Burt's Bees one first. So I'm just going to go right in here. And these are actually very easy to apply because they are a little bit more on the sheer side. I find it's really easy just to kind of airbrush them onto the skin and not worry too much about over applying. So there is the Burt's Bees color. I'm just gonna take a paper towel and wipe off the excess color that's on the brush so I can use the same brush on the other side. I'm gonna dip into the NARS color. So here's the NARS, here's the Burt's Bees. Like I said, this has the slightest hint of gold. This doesn't, but besides that, can't tell a difference. Even the texture, spot on. So this next dupe may be a little bit controversial, for lack of a better word, just because these are two different formulas. But often in my dupe videos, I will show you products that are different formulas, but that will still give you the same end result. So I have this Armani Fluid Sheer Glow Enhancer here, and this is actually a brand new product from Armani. So this is a liquid highlighter, but this is a very, very sheer, almost like translucent liquid highlighter. So even though this looks very bronzy and gold, it's quite sheer, as the name of the product would suggest, and it just gives the most beautiful, like, sun-kissed goddess glow. On the drugstore side, I have this Flower Beauty Day Glow Highlighting Glaze, and I find these two to be so similar because they both have the same type of golden bronze tone. If you hold them side by side, it's almost like the exact same type of color. But like I said with this guy, when you apply this guy, it also doesn't give you that strong bronzy undertone. It's still very translucent and very sheer. It just kind of gives you this beautiful wet finish to the skin. But because of that very slight bronzy undertone, it makes your skin just look so nice and sun-kissed and bronzed. So this is Flower Beauty, this is Armani. They are the exact same tone actually on the skin, and you can see they give the exact same type of like glossy glaze on the skin as well. Starting off first with the Armani guy, I'm gonna put just a little bit on the back of my hand, and I think I'm gonna apply it with my finger. It's a pretty easy product to apply. It's very serum-like, so it just melts into the skin pretty much immediately. And I'm just gonna pop it right on my cheekbone. I also like putting it above my brow. And it's funny because this is never a color that I would ever go to for a highlighter for both of these. But again, because they're both so sheer, I'm able to pull it off, and I love the effect that it gives. Now let's go in with Flower Beauty. I'm gonna wipe off my finger and do the exact same thing. Okay, so that is Flower Beauty, and this is Armani. So now let's move on to the eyes. This is another very exciting dupe for me because it's duping one of my favorite cream eyeshadows. This is the Smashbox Always On Cream Shadow, and like I said, it's one of my favorites because I find that this is one of the most long-wearing cream eyeshadows that I've tried. This guy also sets down and has a really nice powdery finish, and I find a very similar texture to this Rimmel liquid eyeshadow. This is called the Wonder Cloud All Day Wear Soft Shadow, and this one in particular is in the shade Honey Drop, which matches pretty much perfectly the shade Amber from the Smashbox line. So the thing about the Smashbox Always On liquid eyeshadows, even though I love them, they can be a little bit, not tricky, but slightly finicky to use. You have to use a really, really small amount. If you use too much, it is going to get kind of like cakey and crusty on your eye. Like, you have to use a really, really thin layer, and if you do, you're gonna get a beautiful result, but you need to make sure that it's like a super thin layer. This guide actually gives the exact same end result that the Smashbox eyeshadow gives, but I gotta admit, in actually a much easier way. The Smashbox eyeshadow is a squeezy tube, so you do actually have to squeeze this out like on the back of your hand or on a palette of some sort, go in with the brush and apply it that way. But the Rimmel one is a doe foot applicator. So you can just literally swipe it on your lid, take a brush, blend it out, and you're done. So I feel like this guy is just a lot easier to apply, but again, you get the exact same effect. So let's start first with the Smashbox eyeshadow. I'm gonna put the teeny tiniest little pin drop amount on the back of my hand. And I'm first gonna take my finger and take a really small amount and just swipe it all over the lid. And I love this color just for like a really simple, everyday, smoky eye. It's a really nice warm brown. And then I'm gonna take a blending brush, and you wanna blend it right away because these do set down very quickly. And if you wait too long, they are not going anywhere. You don't want that. And then this color is gonna last you all day. So it's still definitely very easy, but you can save a step here with this Rimmel guy. I'm just going to swipe it on my lid. Oh my God, the color, exactly the same. I'm just like so proud of myself right now. Isn't that wild? I know it's just like a warm brown. It's not the most crazy color, but even still, like finding a brown that's the exact same undertone that is the same formula as well, or very similar formula, is just crazy to me. And you see how easy that was to blend out? It's fantastic. And this is also going to last you all day. And similar thing with the Rimmel eyeshadow, you don't want to apply too much. I think just with cream eyeshadow in general, a thin layer is always the best way to go. So that's actually it for the dupes, but I'm gonna finish off this look with a lip, and I'm gonna wear the NARS Air Matte lip color in Total Domination. It's a very pretty red. So I'm gonna do that, and then I will show you guys the final look. All right, guys, so here's the final look. Let me show you both sides once again. Here's the drugstore side, and here is the high-end side. Are you guys able to see a major difference between the two? So like I said, I will be checking in with you guys at the end of the day. So let's fast forward a couple hours. Hello everybody, I am back with my check-in. It is now the end of the day. 8.5 hours have passed. So this is what the makeup is looking like. I think it's looking fantastic, also considering it's been 8.5 hours, and the only part of my makeup that has shown any signs of wear is my nose, and that's just from me taking my mask on and off. But besides that, I just want to show you how both sides of my face truly look like one. It does not look like I'm wearing two sets of makeup, which again, like I said, is really just a great sign of really awesome dupes, and everything is wearing absolutely beautifully. So let's take a closer look at each side, but like I said, really very little has changed. So this is the drugstore side, this is the high-end side. It may have switched for you guys because I'm filming on my phone, so it's mirrored, but this is the drugstore, this is the high-end. The blush is still looking really nice and intense, the highlight is still very much there, and the bronzer also still looks great, and the eyeshadow is also perfect. Nothing's moved, nothing creased. And then as far as the foundation goes, everything is really looking so pretty. I'm definitely a little bit glowier by the end of the day, but I'm glowier not just on this side, but on this side too. It's just kind of what happens with both of these foundations, and I do really like that. It hasn't broken up on my skin anywhere. It just looks fantastic. And also my under eyes also looks fantastic. And keep in mind, I don't have any powder on anywhere on my face, so this is all just the foundation and the concealer. Now on the high-end side, it's really the same situation, like nothing has changed. The blush, the highlight, the bronzer, everything looks great. The eyeshadow, still there. Anyways, A++, guys. All right, guys, so that is it for today's dupe video. I hope that you enjoyed it and potentially found some really awesome products to try out. Let me know in the comments if you do end up trying anything out, and let me know your thoughts. Hit the thumbs up button if you did enjoy today's video, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.